Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Nicole Lopez. I will be talking to you about how sexual education should be implemented at the age of 10. So what age did you all receive your sexual education course, and was it informative, or was it just telling you to be abstinent and restrain yourself from having sex? So high schools usually give some sort of sexual education course during a student's freshman year. According to an article on the Child Trends website, 89 out of 1,000 students of or age 15 become parents prior to receiving the sexual education course. Tara Culp-Bressler, an author at thinkprogress.org, stated that a study done by Georgetown University said that proper sexual education, among other things, students may reduce their chances of having unwanted abortions, unwanted pregnancies, spreading STDs, and dying during maternity. So first I will discuss about child sexuality and their gender identity. Then we will discuss the type of focus and the reasoning the course will have during different stages of a child's life. Finally, we'll discuss the effects of an earlier sexual education. So one of the publications on advocatesforyouth.org on child sexuality and gender identity states that infants and toddlers between the ages 0 to 12, males will have erections in the mother's uterus, as well as some may be born with an erection. And by the age of 2, they know that they are males because of their anatomy being more prominent and visual. Females, on the other hand, don't become curious until a later age due to their lack of curiosity in a way, but they know their gender. So the reason that this may be happening with the curiosity and all that may be because of the anatomies of males and females. Females aren't really developed during those ages, so they don't have anything to really say, okay, well, I want to experiment, what's this, what's going on down here, you know? So an example of this would be that, let's say a kid that's 2, he may have found why, like he'll be playing with himself when he goes to the restroom, because that's usually by the time they're potty trained. When they go to the restroom, they learn how to hold themselves physically, so when they do that, they start playing with themselves, and then out of nowhere, they get an erection, and then they're like, well, what's this? And they become more curious, and they want to identify as to why. So they also talked about how from ages 3 to 7, children of both genders are really curious about everything, and I mean everything. So they will begin to imitate what adults do, and so what some of the behaviors that they may imitate are like their social and their sexual behaviors. So some examples of these would be holding hands and kissing, or hugging, or just saying that they're in a relationship with someone because they hear their parents or older siblings talking about this, so they find it really normal. So an example of this may be that in a daycare there's a girl, she knows what she wants, and she's seen her mom talking about having a boyfriend, stuff like that. So she goes, and like when she's at school, she wants to hold hands with someone, or she'll kiss him, and like she'll be like, oh yeah, I kissed him, and he's my boyfriend. But in reality, she doesn't really know what's going on, but she is curious as to what that is, and that's why she's reproducing this behavior. Okay, so now the difficult part comes here, where from ages 8 to 12 is when puberty strikes in both genders. For males, they'll have pubic hair, frequent erections like morning wood, and some may have wet dreams. The development of the penis and the testes will happen. For females, our breast buds will start popping out. We have pubic hair, periods for the youngest 8 and the oldest 16. So females at this age are more vulnerable to certain things, especially because of social media. They are more prone to, like, okay, if they search something up because they're feeling this, then they might have a review from, let's say, someone that's not as educated, and then they'll believe that's it. And you want them to understand that their body's changing in a healthy way and not in a very bad way. And so this also may be happening, and then, like, males will, like, oh, okay, why am I going through this? And then they'll search certain things up. For both genders, it's a very, very hard stage for both of them, especially when puberty strikes. And then they'll learn things that they shouldn't, and it's not a healthy thing. So let's move on to the focus and reasoning of the education. So abstinence programs are what mainly keep our society going, as we used to think of it in, like, the olden days, because it was effective, but it never really was, because there was a baby boom era, and there was a time when, like, STDs was going on. And to reason all of this, it may be because, well, they didn't have the proper education. Abstinence programs are very inaccurate, ineffective, because if someone tells you, don't do this, you're gonna really want to do this. And something that has always stuck with me is curiosity kills the cat. Well, curiosity kills the cat is very straightforward. When you're curious about something, you search it up, and then when you search it up, you may either find good things or bad things. Or let's say, if a child searches penises, what are they gonna find? They're gonna find porn, and then they're gonna think, oh, this is what I should look like, and this is what I should be doing, when in reality they shouldn't be doing any of this, and they shouldn't feel that they should look like that because it's not real. Also, you want to mold the minds of a younger age, because if you get kids thinking about their bodies in a healthy way, you want to let them know that their body is changing and that it's okay and it's normal. And it's way better to have a professional view on something than to have a friend's point of view or a parent's point of view, because you don't listen to your parents, and when your friends tell you something, it might not be accurate because they learned it from other friends or other teenagers, and it's never, like, consistent information that will provide them the necessary background that they need to know. So some examples of this may be a girl, like I said before, searches something up, and then they pop up this, and then they're like, oh, well, that's how I should look. Or if they ask their friends, because girls always gossip, and then they're like, oh, so what are you going through? And then they feel very self-conscious, and that's not what you should be feeling, because it's normal to be yourself and unique, and it's okay. So you want to have a deeper understanding. Create a deeper understanding in kids. So you want to create awareness of, like, the body, how it changes, and the patterns that they'll have. So they'll have pubic hair, their armpits will start to smell because of hormonal changes, facial hair, anything like that. So you want to create an awareness of the effects of teenage sex. You want to tell them that if they have sex at a younger age, they're more vulnerable to STDs, unwanted pregnancies, having abortions because of the unwanted pregnancies. There's a lot of factors that you can include to warn them, okay, well, this is going to happen. You just need to be safe, and because it's not realistic to tell someone, be abstinent, because not everyone has that willingness or that power to be driven to be abstinent. And you can't force them to, so it's better to just tell them, be safe, give them information, because you want them to think of it as a healthy way and not something that is taboo and then be like something that you do hiding from someone else, because it's not healthy, and then it can lead to other problems. So the effects of an earlier sexual education, with the effects of this sexual education, One of the points is to lower abortion rates due to unwanted pregnancies. Heather D. Boonstra wrote an article on Gut Matcher stating that between 1992 to 2010 in California alone, 65% of teen pregnancy dropped. So, if we look back in time, during this time, it was around the time that sexual education was moved along to not being so much of a taboo thing or just an abstinence program because it's not realistic, because they found out about STDs and they found out about all these other things that were going on with bodies. So they wanted to create awareness, and it has helped because 65% dropped. And I mean, that's really good compared to like in other places. If you go, they don't have safe sex, so there's a bigger population, and then there's more spreads like of STDs, and you want to be able to stop and prevent this because you want a healthy society. Something we never think about or talk about is maternal death, especially in young women of ages 15 or before the age of 18, because your bodies aren't fully developed. So we don't really think about it, but according to an article on advocatesforyouth.org, states that each year adolescents aged 15 to 19 are more than likely to die during pregnancy or childbirth, and it happens due to their body not being fully developed. So an example of this would be your hips aren't wide enough, so baby can't pop out from there, and you can die because it's harder. And yes, a doctor can go in with their hands, but it will cause trauma to the body, and then it will harm you even more. So it's better just to prevent it. But in a lot of cases, many cases of young women have died because their bodies aren't fully developed. You don't have the right amount of body fat, you don't have the right amount of care that you need to take at home. There's a lot of things that happen because you don't quite understand what's going on with your body, because you either became a mother before sexual education, or you had a program that didn't inform you about sex and safe sex in specifically. So you also want to lower STDs. You can lower STDs according to Advocates for Youth. 13 out of 3 programs showed significant declines in STDs, and these programs that showed the declines were programs that provided a safe sex education versus an abstinence program. 14 out of 23 showed success increase of using condoms and other contraceptives. So these contraceptives were well talked about and informed about, so people would use them more, and they have been helping with the rates of STD, so you can lower them and be safe in the society. So, like I stated before, high schools usually teach a sexual education course to students during their freshman year. In some instances, a relatively small number of students may become parents prior to receiving such education. With proper sexual education, among other things, students may reduce their chances of having unwanted pregnancies, having abortions, spreading STDs, and dying during birth or maternity. We discussed the topics of child sexuality and gender identity, and how if we answer their curiosity questions at those ages, they are aware of the issues that come along with unprotected and uneducated teen sex. We briefly discussed as to why and what it should not incorporate. We also discussed the effects of having an earlier sexual education course. So, an early sexual education course may prevent abortions due to unwanted pregnancies, lower STD rates, and can prevent maternal death, etc., etc. Many may not like to discuss the topic of loss of innocence, when in reality there really wasn't one, because children are aware of this because of their social media and their friends and other people around them. And society has created this image for them about what they should be and what they should be doing. Knowledge is power, and with that power, they'll have the ability to either better themselves in the future and open their eyes to the reality. Thank you.